Well, what I witnessed was that, I always made the assumption early on that everyone in the church was going to be like-minded to me because I was in a Reformed Baptist church. So the assumption is that uh, all your convictions are going to be aligned, everyone's going to be like-minded, and I found out very quickly that was not the case, and perhaps it was even a little naive to go in thinking that everyone has their own specific um, convictions, their own, for lack of a better word, quote unquote opinions, their own mind. So not every theological ideology, for lack of a better word, is going to match up or line up with your own, despite being um, in the same denomination. And I think that that's the case overall in the history of Christendom. There's been over the last hundreds and several centuries there have been disputes, and that hasn't gone away. Um, Even there's cases historically throughout church history. Even like I said, even when you're in the same denomination, or even if you have labeled yourself as a particular Calvinistic theology or an Arminian theology or Reformed theology or non-Reformed theology. There are spectrums, and there are conflicts and disputes, and the biggest thing you learn going in is that the difference between primary doctrines and secondary doctrines, and how um, what is worth defending, what is worth dying on a hill, so to speak. And the answer to that is the uh, gospel centric doctrine. The divinity of Christ, the atonement of Jesus, those things um, are worth fighting for and defending. The secondary doctrines, I would add one more primary doctrine to that, and that is the Trinity. And the ecumenical creeds are a great recap of the primary doctrines. But getting back to what I struggled with in realizing that some of the small discipleship groups and some of the interactions especially when I got into ministry and even in fellowship, was that um, well, here's what happened, and this was the repeated pattern. I would uh, state verbally a conviction of mine, and then when and it would get pushback, disagreement, and not even necessarily pushback, but just well, yeah, pushback, and it would there would be some contradiction upon the person hearing what I was saying. Then weeks later, sometimes months later, I would be doing my reading, and I read a lot of 17th century authors, and I read a lot of 20th century authors, theologians, Pink, Lloyd Jones, the Puritans, you name it. I would be doing my reading, and the author would make the exact same point that I had made in my interactions with church members, and it was frustrating because those are some of the same points that I had made that I was getting pushback from. So what's that about? And that was a pattern, and that would happen frequently, and that was very frustrating for me. And so it was hard for me to maintain those relationships and those discussions. Um, um, it was challenging to do that, and I would be very frustrated with that, and I would oftentimes go to my spouse and vent about that, um, or others that I that I trusted greatly, good friends of mine that I knew were in my circle of trust that I could circle of trust um, that I could confide in. So, but I think where there was a I think the hinge that this created, or the connection rather that this created, was one in which um, I was realizing that there wasn't as much like-mindedness as I thought there was going to be. Like I said at the top, I had found in some of the small discipleship groups that I was in that there, if it was a spectrum, the spectrum would indicate that I was far more Calvinistic than some of the others in the church. The others appeared, at least in my perception through talking, to be way more moderate, not high Calvinistic, but moderate, almost to the point of I don't want to say universal or pluralistic, but a better word is overly ecumenical, almost to the point of your truth is your truth, my truth is my truth. Let's just be brothers and put our arms around each other and sing Kumbaya. Whereas I am someone who is big on absolutes, and I'm very anti when it comes to theology when it comes to biblical theology. I'm someone who is about absolutes. I'm not about subjective individualism. I'm about biblical absolutes, and I'm really not about multiple interpretations. I understand that multiple interpretations exist. I get that. I understand that. But I'm not about multiple truths. I'm about one truth. Now, the tendency is for someone hearing that is to say, well, yeah, it's your truth. You think you're right and everybody else is wrong. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying I could be wrong. But what I'm saying is there's only one right. And there can't be multiple rights. There could be multiple interpretations, but there can only be one truth. And that's the hill that I'll die on. That's the flag that I'll wave. And I think that as I wrap up here, I would just say when it comes to ecumenicalism or ecumenicism, it's a proper way of saying it. It's a spectrum. As I've said in the past, if you go too far in one direction, you're flirting with universalism and pluralism. If you go too far in the other direction, you're flirting with not having any unity with people who are truly brothers and sisters in Christ. So you have to, from that perspective, you do have to come to a healthy balance there. So and so that's what I would say. I welcome comments. This video is really about just a therapeutic, a therapeutic way for me to have an outlet, and perhaps maybe some others have experienced this as well.